This is a Tuesday evening edition of Weather Unfiltered. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. Dr. Rick Knapp will be with us in just a bit, but Hurricane Erin has made that northern turn, and you cannot turn your back on this one. Wind and waves are now a big issue along the East Coast.
Absolutely. We know that the path that Erin is taking is going to put it dangerously close to the East Coast of the United States, and we do, in effect, going to see a lot of wave action out of this one, a lot of rough surf, a lot of rip current danger, but you can see the track, at least the center track, is not likely to hit the U.S.
Right, but with that said, we do have tropical storm warnings out for portions of North Carolina, Virginia under tropical storm watches, and then we've got storm surge warnings where some of those roadways like Highway 12 expected to go underwater.
Parts of it already. North Carolina Department of Transportation is already showing water on NC 12, and the storm's not even here yet.
No, and the lifeguards today, they have been working overtime, not necessarily on the stand beaches and across our southeast and northeast and New England beaches, although up in New England can be kind of chilly for the end of the week. Rip current forecast today has been high up and down the coastline. So really from the Cape all the way down to South Florida, high danger of rip currents. And that is why the decision was made to just go ahead and close some of those beaches. Right now, we look at one of our buoys, a wave height of 37 feet. So closer to the center of Erin, we've got some massive waves. And so that, again, churned up ocean is working towards the coastline. So you're not getting waves like that, but still, wave heights around 9 to 10 feet off the coast of South Carolina and North Carolina currently. And you see in those videos, you get some of the white caps, you get some of all the ocean foam. It's just showing you just how lively the ocean is right now. And again, a lot of us you don't want to get out there and just get pummeled by waves. 15 to 20 foot waves along the coast as we move through the day tomorrow and into Thursday. So here come the big waves for South and North Carolina Wednesday into Thursday. Thursday afternoon, we've got Virginia Beach, parts of the Delmarva also in play for some of those really big waves. And even as the storm works out, things are going to stay wavy into our Friday. Friday at lunchtime, you can still expect some of those waves between 5 and 10 feet along the southeast coastline, a little bit higher up towards the mid-Atlantic and northeast. So those storm surge warnings, those have been issued for that push of water onto normally dry ground. Roadway closed. Of course, some folks have been evacuated from areas where they are because you're not going to have access in or out. So they want to get folks out of those areas where you could be honestly stranded for days because of that high water. We look at 1 to 3 feet of storm surge around Virginia Beach to about Kill Devil Hills. Areas in yellow, 2 to 4 feet of water, and then down towards Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, south of Morehead City, another 1 to 3 foot range. That's why we've got some of those storm surge watches posted. Right now, winds not crazy. We've got generally about 5 to 10 mile-an-hour winds, but some spots a little bit greater than that. Winds will, however, be picking up. You saw the flags there in Rehoboth Beach. They were moving quite a bit. They're going to be that way across parts of the Outer Banks. So we've got Wilmington, Morehead City, Hatteras tomorrow afternoon, gusting 20 to 25 to 30 miles an hour. Same for Virginia Beach. You'll start to see those winds really pick up, though, into Thursday morning. Virginia Beach possibly gusting to 50 miles an hour. Same for Hatteras and Morehead City. 40-mile-an-hour gust there in Kill Devil Hills. You could increase to 50 miles an hour as well throughout the day Thursday. And those winds also working up to our northeastern beaches as we move through Thursday and into Friday. Notice Friday at lunchtime, that storm well away, but still dealing with some of those winds, 20 to 25 miles an hour in the gust department. Virginia Beach, North Carolina, Virginia Beach, Virginia. We've got the rain, we've got the gusty winds, again, to 50 miles an hour. This will start by mid to late morning tomorrow, continue through and so a rough day. If it is your beach trip, you're going to be spending the day in the condo. Survivable storm. This is not going to cause, life-threatening issues unless you choose to get in the water. Our senior national correspondent, Justin Michaels, is live in Virginia Beach. Justin, I would assume a lot of people did make that decision to stay out of the water today.
Well, they need to.
Let's get you back to Hurricane Erin. Of course, we've got impacts expected here, already seeing some of that in the water, but tropical storm warnings and tropical storm watches posted. The warnings in the red, the watches in the yellows. This would include parts of both North Carolina and Virginia. Now, we look at Hurricane Erin, currently a Category 2 hurricane with winds just over 100 miles an hour. This is moving to the north-northwest, so that northern track has begun, and we've seen this move past the Turks and Caicos, now off to the east of the Bahamas. It will continue to make that way or make that path, that expected path between the U.S. and Bermuda. So truly splitting in between the two. But given the size of this, both Bermuda and the U.S. are going to be feeling the significant impacts, including wind. Here's Hatteras, North Carolina, where, again, they have done, some of the Outer Banks. They've actually gone ahead and told people to leave because roadways like Highway 12 going to go underwater. So that's going to make some of these areas impassable for possibly days. Winds gusting to nearly 40, even 50 miles an hour into Thursday morning. So I think for a place like Hatteras, it's going to be Thursday morning that the winds are the most intense. I think we could see some localized power outages, not looking at, huge wind damage, but certainly the potential is there for some power outages. Again, the ocean is going to be the main character in this, right? Big waves and big rip current danger. Mike?
All right, Alex, thank you very much.
Rip current danger is high from Florida all the way up to New England. So yesterday we had some areas with moderate rip currents. Plenty of areas were already at high. Now it's up and down the coast. It is across the board. We do have the storm surge warnings in effect for Hurricane Erin, including Ocracoke, Hatteras, Nags Head up to Kill Devil Hills. This is where we could see 2 to 4 feet of inundation, so water over normally dry ground, 1 to 3 feet on the non-ocean side, and then also down towards northeast South Carolina, southeast Virginia as well. Virginia Beach area could see a rise in water. Right now, winds are not crazy high. We've got 5 to 10 mile-an-hour winds for many. No significant gusts at this point, but gusts are going to pick up, and they're going to pick up in a big way. So be prepared for winds to 30, 40, even 50 miles an hour. Time frame for North Carolina and Virginia. Later on Wednesday, things really start to tick up in the wind department. By later Wednesday night and into early Thursday, here you've got winds 50 miles an hour. Those are your gusts for Morehead City, for Hatteras, 40 miles an hour in Kill Devil Hills. Virginia Beach around 50 miles an hour. Now, Kill Devil Hills, you'll top out around 50 miles an hour at times too. So there could be some local power outages or localized power outages, especially in those coastal areas. Salisbury, Maryland, could be gusting at 30 miles an hour into the later part of Thursday. Now, by Friday, here's lunchtime, still some gusty to breezy conditions across sections of the coast, especially as you move up to the north. So areas into the northeast and New England. Wave heights right now around 9 to 10 feet. So those waves are really going to be crashing as the storm moves off to the east. And our Justin Michaels, our senior national correspondent, is in Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach, Justin, we just said, is going to get winds gusting to 50 miles an hour. I can see that you've said today they're really being cautious with flags are flying along the Maryland coast, including here in Berlin. All ocean access not allowed, prohibited. No swimming, no wading, no nothing. No surfing for sure. They don't want anybody out there in the water. Honestly, a lot of beaches making that decision for your safety. You've seen in Justin Michaels' shots, and we'll see in Jen Carfagno's, things are moving there in the ocean. Coastal flood watch is in effect for parts of Virginia, the Delmarva. We've got a good chunk of Delaware. We've got a good chunk of Jersey. There's also some coastal flood warnings in effect in there as well. And we look at the wind observations right now. Wind's not bad, but they're going to be picking up. We've seen some breezes today. The flag's whipping around a bit, but things really crank up into the second half of the week. Here's Thursday morning, starting to see some of those winds around 30, 35, 40 miles an hour from parts of Maryland up towards the Chatham and Nantucket areas. Some of the worst of the wind will be late Thursday, with winds gusting 25 to 35 miles an hour. Now, Friday afternoon, Nantucket and Chatham, you guys have those wind gust potentials in that 40 to 50 mile per hour range. So some of the strongest gusts for New England coming for the end part of the week. And the waves will also be very large, 10 to 15 foot waves likely along the coast. You can see the timing for parts of the mid-Atlantic and the northeast beaches. It's Thursday into Friday for some of our New England beaches. So out on the Cape, you can expect those waves to still be churning into the end of the week. And as we get into our weekend, here's Saturday afternoon and evening, still looking at least some wave action. The overall heights are dying down, but things are still churned up. Now, Nantucket, you've got gusty winds and cloudy skies, and also should note pretty chilly temperatures too. Thursday highs only in the upper 60s, Mike.
Very, very chilly. We're watching Weather Unfiltered. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. Hurricane Erin made that turn to the north. Now we are watching our beaches. Can't turn your back to the water, and in some cases, you can't get in the water.
No, not at all, and it's going to get worse over the next few days. So the path that Erin's going to take is likely to take the center away from the United States, but that doesn't mean we won't feel the effects, because the effects will go well beyond that red cone.
Absolutely. We've got tropical storm warnings and watches. We've got storm surge warnings inundation already happening in parts of North Carolina. Some areas they've evacuated because these areas are going to be inaccessible for days.
Yes. Buxton, North Carolina, right out there at Hatteras, right? The hurricane's 650 miles away, and they're already getting overwash on the highway.
Yeah, so goes to show you just what the ocean is doing. I said it earlier, I'll say it again. The ocean is the main character with this storm. Really dangerous stuff. Lifeguards in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, had to conduct the cast today, as I mentioned, from Florida all the way up to New England. We've got the high risk of rip currents, so there's no in-betweens. It is dangerous in the water from Florida to the southeast, to the mid-Atlantic, to the northeast, to southern New England. Wave heights at this buoy close to the center of the storm, 37 feet. So the ocean rocking and rolling, and that is translating over towards the coast. We're not seeing 37-foot waves, but around 9 to 10 feet. And moving through the week, we're going to see 10 to 15, 15 to 20-foot waves approaching the coastline. South Carolina and Georgia, especially North Carolina, Virginia, the Delmarva, and our northeast and New England beaches getting in on big waves Wednesday, Thursday, even into Friday up there into New England. So as that storm makes that northeastward pass, still things are pretty active at the beaches in like a Nantucket on Friday. We look at the storm surge warnings. As we've told you, some of these roadways already inundated with water. Now they are those usual suspect locations, but still got to think about this. Some of these places are not going to be accessible. So if you're staying, you may not be able to get out. People may not be able to get in. 2 to 4 feet of water inundation, your storm surge potential. Here, areas in blue, that is the 1 to 3 foot of water rises. Now, winds really pick up through the second half of tomorrow and then again on Thursday. We look at North Carolina into Virginia. Later Wednesday, winds now around 25 to 30 miles an hour in spots. But how about 35 to 50 mile an hour gusts Thursday morning from places like Wilmington all the way up to like Salisbury, honestly. I think some of the strongest gusts from Virginia Beach to Morehead City, where we could reach up to 50 miles an hour. So localized power outages, I don't think we're going to be seeing widespread issues, but would not be out of the question. Again, anything that's not tied down, anything that's loose in and around the beach house, that needs to be brought in. Virginia Beach, you've got rain, we've got plenty of wind, and again, everything that's happening in the water. Our senior national correspondent, Justin Michaels. I know normally, Justin, you'd probably celebrate a trip to Virginia Beach without actually a hurricane making landfall. But I got to also imagine there's some unhappy fans at beach after beach after beach, from parts of the southeast to the mid-Atlantic and likely across sections of our northeast beaches, too. Tropical storm warnings are in effect for areas in red. We've got tropical storm watches for the spots in yellow. So we do expect some wind. I think we'll see some gusts up to 40, even 50 miles an hour. The big story, though, is what's happening in the water, and that is the problem with this storm. This storm is one that's super easily survivable. Some of you may be like, oh, it kind of reminds me of, just a showery, thunderstormy day. But what's going on in the water is what can and has in previous storms taken lives. So 105 mile per hour category 2 hurricane right now. Things stay churned up against the East Coast as the storm moves off to the north, then turns northeast, but staying around 100, 110 miles an hour. So in that Cat 2 range through the second half of the week. That's going to keep big waves, big rip currents, and gusty winds in the forecast. Also some rain showers, too. Hatteras, North Carolina, we've got winds gusting 30 to 40 miles an hour into the day on Thursday. I think by the time you're actually waking up, 7 a.m., gusts to 50 miles an hour. Again, some rain showers, but the things you think of with a tropical storm or a hurricane, wind, really intense rainfall rates, not going to be what we see out of this one. But what we are seeing is the intensity in the water. And again, if you stay out of the water, you're going to be just fine with this one. Wind gusts into the state of North Carolina. They're going to be on the increase. Hatteras to 40 miles an hour by late Wednesday. Thursday morning, we've got gusts 35 to even 50 miles an hour.
Roughly half an hour.
And speaking of a half an hour, our hurricane expert, Dr. Knabb, will be joining us as well. You are watching Weather Unfiltered. I'm Alex Wilson here with Mike Bettis.
All right, so a lot to talk about with Aaron. It's amazing to note that it is literally hundreds of miles away from the mid-Atlantic coastline there and already causing overwash issues and flooding.
Yeah, a storm making no landfall here in the U.S., not even close. A lot of people are going, well, how is that going to affect me? Well, ask the folks at the beaches today that walked out to double red flags or lifeguards saying, Not today. What is it? Sorry, folks. Park's closed.
Right.
The beach is closed today.
I was a little shocked at how bad the water is, how rough the water is at Virginia Beach tonight.
Yeah, Justin Schott is pretty churned up. So, and that's not the worst of it. That's coming later tomorrow and into Thursday. So we got big changes that are still coming. Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina, of course, one of the spots that we are of rip currents from Florida up to New England. So yesterday had some areas with moderate rip currents, but remember, that was parts of North Carolina where we had 60 to 70 plus rescues in the water. So just goes to show you things have gone from bad to worse at most of those beaches. And again, that's why some of them are closed, essentially, to swimming, surfing, the like. Storm surge warnings in effect here for parts of the Outer Banks, including Kill Devil Hills and Hatteras and Ocracoke, down to areas south of Atlantic. Water rises of 2 to 4 feet for the areas in yellow, 1 to 3 feet for the areas in blue. So there are plenty of problem spots that we can anticipate. Wind observations looking at current winds, 5 to 10 miles an hour. That is going to bump up. Now, wind is not the main issue with this storm, but winds will gust 40 to 50 miles an hour in spots. And so that could lead to at least some low-end or localized power outages. That's not going to be, we're not going to see widespread power outages, huge issues thanks to the wind and the rain. I know things that we think of with tropical systems, it truly is going to be the water. But, we were just talking about Justin Michaels' shot and the ocean there in Virginia Beach. Let's bring in our senior national correspondent, Justin Michaels, with a look at how things are going. I feel like I can hear the ocean. Have been flying already along the Maryland coastline. This is Berlin. All ocean access prohibited. No swimming, no wading, no surfing, no nothing. Closed. The beach is closed. And rightfully so. Again, things have been really rough out there. Now, northeast beaches getting in on the action, too. Already high danger of rip currents today. And then we've got coastal issues. Coastal flood warnings, watches, and advisories have been issued through Friday from Virginia up into parts of New Jersey. Winds, not crazy, just like what we're seeing across the southeast. A lot of 5 to 10 mile per hour winds with calmer gusts. No gusts right now, but that'll be changing, especially into Thursday and Friday. Even late Wednesday, we'll start to see those 20 to 25 mile per hour winds take over. But look Thursday morning, and this is lunchtime that we've paused it for you. Atlantic City gusting to 50 miles an hour. Toms River, New Jersey, 40 mile an hour gusts. Salisbury, Maryland to 35 miles an hour. 35 mile an hour gusts also up towards Nantucket. Now, our New England beaches, you guys could keep the gusty winds even into our Friday. Here's late Thursday, early Friday. Nantucket and Chatham both gusting to 50 miles an hour. So some big time winds. Those will continue into Friday morning. By Friday afternoon, still a little breezy up across sections of coastal New England. Now, the wave forecast also follows like what we've seen across sections of the southeast. Those 10 to 15 foot waves likely here across the northern, northeast, and New England coastline. So maybe not the 20-foot waves we could see farther to the south, but the ocean's still going to be plenty churned up here, even into the late part of Friday, early Saturday.
Thank you for staying with us tonight here on Weather Unfiltered. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson, and our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb, with us now. Aaron has made that turn. Things have already gotten rocky. We had Justin Michaels on, and Virginia Beach was already churned up.
Yeah, that ocean looks very angry, and considering how much worse it's going to get, as he showed how much farther up the beach that water's going to go. And this is one of those cases where the categorization system of hurricanes lets us down a little bit, because this is a larger than usual Cat 2. The pressure is lower than a usual Cat 2, and that's being used to create a much larger hurricane, totally capable of producing the water impacts on the coast that we're going to see.
All right, so let's talk about that East Coast. What are we anticipating? If you look at the forecast track on that red cone, not looking at a landfall per se, but effects that go well beyond that cone.
Yeah, not even close to a landfall, really.
No, and again, you don't need landfall to have land impacts, and we know that impacts extend well outside the cone, especially when it's a huge hurricane like Aaron is.
Yeah, the lifeguards in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, we talked what they did yesterday. Man, they were busy. Get as high as 15 to 20 feet. Then there's the rip current danger. We already saw that to start the week, and now again today, a lot of beaches, they are closed. Rip current forecast today, high danger from South Florida all the way up to New England. We're going to keep that going into tomorrow. Buoy right now off or closer to the center of the storm, 38 feet. Now, we're not going to see those kind of waves along the coast, but we will see those 10 to 15 to 20 foot waves. Right now, around 10 foot waves advancing a little closer to the southeast beaches. of the Carolinas, both South and North Carolina, just offshore. Some of those buoys picking up some of those larger waves. And again, we've seen it in some of our, live shots with our crews out there along the coast. Moving into the mid part of the week, Wednesday, especially late Wednesday, early Thursday, those 15 to 20-foot waves possible from the Carolinas into Virginia and the Delmarva as well. So you thought the waves today were big? Just get ready, because things are really going to get going as we move forward in time. And then there's the surge aspect, especially for the Outer Banks. Storm surge warning is in effect for all the areas shaded in this pink color. We've got 2 to 4 feet water rises in the areas in yellow. We've got 1 to 3 feet of inundation here possible for places in northeast South Carolina to southeast Virginia. Wind observations right now, a lot of 5 to 10 mile an hour winds, so not anything crazy, nothing to write home about, nothing's going to blow your hat off your head, but that'll also change. Now, wind and rain will not be the memorable aspect of this storm. It's not even the dangerous, deadly aspect of this storm. It's going to, of course, be what's in the water, but still, we could get up there to some gusts, 30, 40, even 50 miles an hour. Here's Thursday morning. Virginia Beach, Hatteras, Morehead City, even at times Kill Devil Hills, gusting to 50 miles an hour. Thursday, late day. Winds start to back off, but we still have gusts between 25 and 40 miles an hour for a lot of these locations. A little breezy into early Friday for places like Virginia Beach and Kill Devil Hills. Now, Kill Devil Hills, you've got the rain showers and thunderstorms too, but again, this is not going to be like a landfalling hurricane with nonstop torrential rain with, huge winds that's going to be damaging property and leading to widespread power outages. It's the water that's been the problem. Meteorologist Jen Carfagno. Jen, you were out there yesterday, so I would imagine that even today you've seen some big changes in what's happening in the water.
That every other wave has a decent chance to develop, because Erin obviously developed. There's a wave in between Erin and this 60% wave that's not developing. This one has a decent chance, but the one right behind it might struggle, and I think that's because there are upper-level troughs in between each of these systems, so you get weak shear, strong shear, weak shear, strong shear.
Nice, so it's spaced out. Now this one, again, this is already Invest 99L. This has 30% chance of development, but reading the National Hurricane Center, they say it might struggle moving forward or beyond that.
Yeah, so a couple things about this. Obviously, being designated an invest doesn't make your chances of development higher. Because
I think everybody would go, ooh.
Yeah, this is getting an invest because it's getting a well-defined area of circulation a little sooner, and so they can put a latitude and longitude on it and run the models, and that's what an invest will do. So that looks a lot different than that does. But the longer-term prospects for this one are less conducive than for this one, because this is going to run into wind shear that's more of a problem for the next several days than this one will.
Which is funny because, again, a lot of people, I think, would look at these two images and go, oh, well, if I'm going to bet on one, I'm going with that one.
Yeah, that's in the short term.
Yeah.
But, look in bigger picture, look at the upper level outflow starting to take shape over this guy, whereas there's a little bit of a trough coming in from the north. This is going to kind of run into a wall of wind shear.
All right, so, things get a little bit more hostile. In terms of where the one in between goes, right, our area to watch, there's Erin, and you've said, our area to watch kind of gets its act together, but is it still looking likely that we see a path similar to Erin?
Well, as sometimes happens, well, let's say it often happens.
Yeah.
The GFS has made a change toward what the Euro solution was last night, which is that Erin is slow enough to wait for the next system to come in to draw it northward before that next trough comes in. That front that's going to go through the Midwest this weekend, that is going to be the one that turns this 60% wave, but it's the timing with Erin that gets it started north and makes it really hard for it to turn later, like the GFS.
Yeah, so there is the GFS, of course, with Erin. Our GFS brings this to a similar way. I do notice, it feels like it gets, actually, I guess in the latest run it didn't, but earlier runs had it getting a little stringed out and maybe something hanging out over the Bahamas or Cuba. This, obviously, a much more favorable scenario.
Yeah, and this is farther east than last night and closer to the Euro. So we're getting in better agreement that this is going to turn. But the fact that the next waves start to struggle might be an indication that the last part of August might temporarily be less favorable before September 1 it ramps up again.
All right, Dr. Knapp, thank you. Back to this storm, caught up on what we can expect in places like Hatteras, courtesy of Hurricane Erin. This is late Wednesday into Thursday morning. Winds really start to pick up during this time frame. We go from gusts to 30 to 40 to even 50 miles an hour by early Thursday. We will see some rain, but again, it is the wave action, the dangerous rip currents, and of course the surge that will be the greatest of problems there for eastern North Carolina. Forecast wind gusts for other areas also getting up into that 30 to 50 mile per hour range. So I think some of the strongest of gusts for places like Beaufort, for Elizabeth City, for Hatteras, anywhere again from 30 to 50 miles an hour. Some localized power outages will be a possibility, as will some showers. You know, we will see rain, some thunderstorms, but again, it's the rip current danger, the wave danger, and the surge that has been always the greatest threat with this storm. Ocean City, Maryland, you also have winds picking up, gusting to around 40, even 50 miles an hour. That would be early on Thursday, still windy into the afternoon. Concerns generally focused at the coast, and that's what we saw yesterday with all the rip current rescues. Again today, in fact, many beaches were just downright closed because of that risk. Rip current forecast, high danger from South Florida all the way to New England. Storm surge warnings posted for the Outer Banks of North Carolina. That's where areas can expect to be inundated for a long duration. As Mike said, this is not just like, you know, a one high tide cycle. Some of these areas could be cut off for a longer period. So that's why officials have said, hey, get out of these areas, because if you're stuck, you can't get out, no one can get to you. So should something happen, you're kind of out of luck. 2 to 4 feet of surge potential for the areas in yellow, 1 to 3 foot potential for the areas in blue. And when we look at the wind gusts, 30 to 40 to even 50 miles an hour likely here, especially as we get late into Wednesday through the early part of the day Thursday. Look at Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. Look at all those winds, 40 to 50 miles per hour. Still windy into Thursday afternoon, breezy into Friday morning. Now, meteorologist Jen Carfagno is live right now in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, with the very latest. I mean, and Jen, you've said even just here over the afternoon into the evening, things have changed a lot. Luckily, it's dark, so she's exactly right. So what's happening right now in the ocean doesn't just stop if the storm weakens, if the storm moves away. So those waves continue to propagate.
Yeah, and so what's happening today is not only do you have the hurricane getting a little closer, but you've got high pressure off the New England coast. So in between, you have onshore flow. So that's setting the stage for what the swells and the waves are going to do once they start crashing onto the shore and adding to the water on the beaches, along with stronger onshore flow.
Yeah, you know, offshore buoy closer to the center of this storm, 34-foot waves. So they're moving. The ocean is churned out there, and we're going to be looking at waves possibly up to 20 feet here along our southeast coastline.
Yeah, and see, that's what a Category 2 hurricane can do when it is larger than your average Category 2. It's got a lower central pressure than your average Cat 2, and with tropical storm force winds going out more than 250 miles, that is easily pushing the ocean around more than a small Cat 2 would.
So when we're looking at the cone, this again is the center of the storm.
Right.
This does not reflect how large the storm is. And part of the reason it's going to grow so much in size is what is guiding it.
Yeah, so because Erin is so large, the category system and the cone both can be very misleading as to how significant the coastal impacts are going to be. We've got a storm surge warning for the Outer Banks, and we've got a tropical storm warning. We've got the really high risk of rip currents and high surf. This is a life-threatening situation all up and down the East Coast if you make the wrong decision by getting in the water.
Right, and a lot of beaches have kind of taken it out of the public's hands. They've said the beaches are closed, so you can't be out there. Looking at the tropical storm force wind probabilities, the storm moving on the western side of that cone. So, you know, when we look at the forecast cone, the trend has been for it to veer a little over this way. So do we look at those odds going up a little bit?
Yeah, and I think this is already still underdone because Erin is larger than the data set that this product was developed on. And the center is going to come closer to Cape Hatteras than it is to Bermuda. And it's going to get horizontally larger because the jet stream that's going to turn it out to sea is also taking a lot of the air out of the top of Erin over the next couple of days to lower the pressure. And it might re-strengthen it a little bit, but that might actually just cause the pressure difference to be used to make it even larger.
Yeah, so we're just looking at a broadening storm. So that means by the time mid-Atlantic and northeast New England areas, we still have quite a lot to work with. Those waves, they radiate pretty far away.
Yeah, and that energy will propagate all up and down the East Coast. And even after Aaron begins to depart this weekend, it'll take a few days for the Atlantic to calm down.
Dr. Knapp, thanks.
More of Weather Unfiltered rolling on. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. Of course, our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knapp, closely watching this. We've got the Hurricane Hunters flight ongoing. We've still got a strong hurricane, and we've now started to see some significant effects.
Yeah, I think we're starting to get to that time where I think it's best for people on the East Coast to stop paying very much attention to the category of the hurricane and to the cone and focus on what's going to happen where they live on the coast.
There's going to be a lot of effects along the East Coast, from Florida all the way to Maine. We're expecting a high rip current danger for you here. As you were alluding to, Dr. Knapp, the cone never actually officially touches the U.S., but the effects of it go well beyond that cone.
Yeah, we've got waves, we've got wind, we've got surge in some areas. There are storm surge warnings in effect for parts of North Carolina.
And if anybody tells you, hey, don't worry about this, it's only a Category 2. But why don't you respond with, yeah, but this is going to be a 500-600 mile wide hurricane going by. It's huge.
Valid point.
It's got things churned up. It's like, you know, when you get in a hot tub and you're just trying to relax and then somebody turns on the jets and it's very aggressive. That's what the ocean's like. So, but on a worse scale, because you can't really swim in a hot
Well,
tub.
think about this. Could we have storm surge for like 3 consecutive days, not just a one punch and it comes in? You could have this over multiple high tide cycles, and it's going to really do a number on it.
Yeah, so the water will come up, go down for a little bit, then come up even worse the next time. And this is going to start happening tomorrow night.
And we've seen it with rip currents yesterday in Wrightsville Beach, the southeast, the mid-Atlantic, the northeast, and some of our New England beaches. Rip current danger, that's what I was talking about. So you see that strip of red from south of Miami all the way up to the Cape of Massachusetts. So we've got a huge amount of real estate, a huge amount of beaches that are just too dangerous to get in right now. 34-foot waves currently at last check. So this buoy close to the center of the storm, that water is rocking and rolling, and even towards the coast. We're not going to see waves like that, but we could be looking at some 20-foot waves here into the second half of the week. Right now, we've seen some 9 to 10-foot waves advancing closer to the coastline of North and South Carolina. As I mentioned, 15 to 20-foot waves possible along the coast. You can see the waves really get going later tomorrow night, and into the day on Thursday. Here's lunchtime on Thursday. Outer Banks, Virginia Beach, Ocean City, parts of Delaware, and eventually Jersey get in on some of those really massive waves. So I would say across the mid-Atlantic, southeast, 15 to 20-foot waves, probably 10 to 15-foot waves farther to the north. So, you know, don't even get too close to the ocean. Those waves could be crashing. You don't want to be, you know, out there on one of those overlooks and then have one of those massive waves come in. So use caution, keep your pets away from the beaches. And of course, everybody needs to stay out of the water. Storm surge warnings also in effect. Everywhere you see that pink color, 2 to 4 feet. That's the storm surge potential for the areas in yellow, 1 to 3 feet for the areas in blue. And when we look at the wind observations right now, around a 6-mile-an-hour wind for most areas. Salisbury, Maryland at 9 miles an hour. But look at these gusts, especially late Wednesday and into Thursday. That's when things really get kicking. Winds 50 miles an hour in Kill Devil Hills, in Hatteras, and Morehead City, and in Virginia Beach. So Thursday morning, you're going to have, you know, quite the start. The winds will be out there, but again, the ocean will very much be doing its thing. Meteorologist Jen Carfagno is live for us in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. She's been up and down the coastline of North Carolina. Jen, I was going to say, you know, you feel for people who can't get in the water, but if you had like a good balcony and a view of the ocean, it's going to put on a show.
I think the mode that the tropical Atlantic has gotten into is like every other wave has a decent chance to develop, because Aaron obviously developed. There's a wave in between that did not. And this next one, 60% chance, but the one right behind it, a lesser chance. So I think what happens is you get upper level wind shear that's stronger in between the systems that are developing.
And so the in-between, they get the chance. That first one looking good. Now, the second one, people go, this is an invest, so this one must be the one to watch. But this one's got short-term opportunities, but then longer range, things look a little less favorable for it.
So obviously being designated an invest doesn't have anything directly to do with your chances of development. It has to do with how well defined of a center of the system that the hurricane forecaster at the Hurricane Center can identify to put it into the computer and run models off it, and that's what you do with an invest. The wave out ahead of it, higher chance of development over the next week, but it's too broad and ill-defined at the moment.
Yeah.
But yes, this one does not have really promising long-term
So invest does not mean it's special, does not mean it's better, it's higher ranked. It's not like valedictorian of waves or something. We look at this, though, and people looking at it would go, well, gosh, I feel like that one does. But you've said, while this is disorganized now, moving forward, better likelihood that it gets its act together.
Yeah. Now, this has very low chances in the next 2 days. This has pretty much all its chances in the next 2 days, unless it pulls a sneaky and goes toward the Caribbean and Gulf later on. But that's a later thing. But yes, this could develop quickly, but then could fall apart quickly because there is upper level wind shear with a trough this is going to run into, whereas this has upper level high pressure developing over it.
Yeah, you've mentioned this one seems to be, overall, forming better. Aaron moving out. So now we've been watching that next wave, that area to watch. Yesterday, our forecast models were very much at opposite ends of the scale. Today, a little bit closer together.
Remember when Dexter was out there and Aaron was starting to form, and we showed how where Dexter will be will affect where Aaron goes? Well, now Aaron's returning the favor by affecting where this next system is going to go, and in all likelihood, weakening the ridge to bring this north, and then the next trough takes it out to sea.
Yeah, now earlier runs of the GFS had it moving maybe a little farther to the west. Now more in line with what we're seeing with the Euro.
Yeah, as you get closer in time to Friday and Saturday when Aaron and this next wave are going to be closest together, the models have a better idea that it's going to recurve.
All right, so that's what we're looking at now. Our next named storm is, of course, Fernand and then Gabrielle. So we'll see what we got. Also of these beaches showing very, very clear and distinct rip currents. So the danger has been very high. In fact, from south of Miami all the way up to the Cape of Massachusetts, that's where we've got the greatest danger of rip currents. So just about everywhere. Storm surge warnings up for the areas in pink. Now in yellow, that's where 2 to 4 feet of storm surge potential exists. Areas in blue, 1 to 3 feet of surge potential. Winds really pick up, especially during the second half of Wednesday and into the day Thursday. I think Thursday morning, those winds will be cranking as the storm makes its closest pass here to the mid-Atlantic. Expect gusts 40 to 50 miles an hour from Morehead City up to Virginia Beach. We'll see some of those gusts also into parts like Jersey and southern New England as well as we make our way later Thursday into early Friday. Now, it's still breezy in these areas Friday through the first half of the day. Winds continue to back off later on. Wave heights right now getting closer to the coast have been around 9 to 10 feet. The potential's there for waves of 10 to 15 to even 20 feet along the coast, especially there into sections of the Outer Banks, Virginia, and the Delmarva. All right, I'm here with Dr. Knabb now because we're going to see more of those coastal impacts because, as Mandy, our producer, points out, the girth of the storm is going to get... Mandy's kind of shaming Aaron a little bit, but Aaron is getting much wider as it moves off to the north, so that means more ocean getting churned up, more wind, more waves.
Yeah, so it's less and less about what the maximum winds are, and it's more and more about how horizontally large the hurricane is, because even a large tropical storm or Cat 1 hurricane can really push the ocean around. And this is way larger than average. It's going to be 500 to 600 miles across as it is growing in size headed northward.
Yeah, now right now we've got waves of 32 feet close to the center of the storm, but we anticipate, close to our coastline, waves could get up to 15 to 20 feet.
Yep. Now, there's two main things that the aircraft is trying to get to the Hurricane Center forecasters. One, what's the maximum wind? But two, how far out do those hurricane and tropical storm force winds go? And if they don't find stronger winds than this about 85 miles an hour they found in this mission so far, then maybe it's not at 105. Maybe it's a little bit less. But regardless, it's getting larger, and so the category and the cone become less and less useful, and focusing on the horizontal size becomes the rumor you want to pass around.
Yeah.
Did you hear that this is now 500 miles wide?
Yeah. Yeah, well, ultimately, the cone looks small because that's the center of the path.
Right.
And we know where this is going at this point. But as you point out, impacts well outside the cone. So here's a closer look. Now, remember, that actual cone was probably only about here. But look at the tropical storm force winds. And you actually think that even this is underdone.
Yeah, I think these are underdone because Erin is already a larger than average hurricane. And this product from the Hurricane Center is trained on past data, developed on past data, not involving too many hurricanes that are this large and only going to get larger.
Yeah, and part of that is also, you've said, due to the trough that's picking this up, helping it expand in size. You said you wouldn't be surprised if maybe moving forward we saw a little bit of an increase or uptick in strength. I guess decrease in pressure, uptick in strength.
Yeah, because the waters stay really warm all the way until it gets north of North Carolina, and the trough that's coming off the Great Lakes in the Northeast to steer it out to sea is also going to have an effect of causing tremendous outflow from the top of the hurricane. It's not going to be getting sheared. It's going to be becoming ventilated, and that is going to cause the pressure to drop some. Now, maybe some of that gets used to keep the intensity the same or maybe bring it up a little bit. But a lot of that will cause the pressure to drop and for it to get larger.
And do you think we'll see any more tropical storm watches or warnings issued farther north?
You at least got to keep your eye on Nantucket, for example.
All right, Dr. Nab, thanks. So you can get the very latest on farther to the north, getting in on the action. And already today, double red flags were flying along the Maryland coastline. And you can see they were just flying. They were getting all whipped around. This is Berlin, Maryland. All ocean access prohibited. No swimming, no wading, no surfing. No. Northeast beaches going to have trouble. Mid-Atlantic ones as well. We've got coastal flood advisories, coastal flood watches, even coastal flood warnings in effect for some of these areas. So these are in effect through the end part of the week. So it's really the second half of the week, Thursday and into Friday, that we see some of our greatest problems in these spots. Wind observations right now, not much to write home about. Dover, Delaware, you've got about a 15-mile-per-hour wind. That's the windy spot right now. That'll change, though. We're going to see those gusts really start to perk up into our Thursday and then eventually Friday for sections of, say, Chatham and Nantucket. You're going to see that in a second. Here's noon on Thursday. Winds gusting to 35 miles an hour at Salisbury and at Dover. 50 miles an hour at Atlantic City. 40 miles an hour at Toms River. New York City, 30-mile-an-hour winds for you. Montauk, 20 to 25-mile-per-hour gusts. But into Friday morning or late Thursday, early Friday, we start to see those winds at Nantucket and Chatham pick up 40-mile-an-hour, even 50-mile-an-hour gusts likely there. So, as I've said, up and down the coastline, it's not like we're going to see widespread power outages. Wind damage isn't going to be a big issue, but anything that's, unsecured could blow around, and there could be some localized power outages, but it's really all about the water, the coastal flooding, the rip currents, and the big wave action. Here across the Northeast and New England states, you can expect 10 to 15-foot waves along the coast. Again, later Thursday, Friday, but even into the weekend, I think we're still going to see things churned up there in the ocean. So, make sure if you're even heading to the beaches this weekend, you're like, well, the storm's way gone. Got to check in with the lifeguards. Not that you're swimming in Nantucket. Look at these temperatures tomorrow or Thursday afternoon, upper 60s, as good as it gets.